observed this as a pattern that every time, if you're working a lot of hours, they will prioritize you rather do the labor intensive role than push you through for like your career development. I feel like in my head, once I get to know a fact, I think I immediately, when I look at a person, my mind is working in a sense that, oh, I know what their issues are. Then you just have a little bit more clarity to approach that situation differently. And I think people need to do more of that. Like, they need to, with all due respect, chill the fuck out.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the All of You podcast, where we sit down with all of you. And today we are extending the olive branch to the one and only, the hostess with the mostest, Shambhavi. Sham. You know Sham. She's been on a few of the episodes so far on the pod, but Sham is a very, very special and important person to OBM. And Sham, would you like to just open up the mic with giving a little introduction of who you are and what your position is with Olive Branch?
It's hilarious because I think out of all the episodes that they've tried to introduce me,
well, this is your episode, so you have to give us a little bit more of your personality and your yapperness.
So my name is Shambhavi, which is very well known. So we're just gonna stick with Sham. I am. So I just finished my studies April of this year. We say.
I watched you walk across the stage.
Yeah, that was. I am working as a supervisor at a long-term care / retirement home. I'm also in the middle of changing my fields a little bit. It's just a whole chaotic, which we'll get into. It's a typhoon over there. But I actually completed my bachelor's and I'm born and brought up in India. And right now I work with OBM. I volunteer with OBM as the secretary and the director of strategic partnership on the board.
You're a registered board member with the Government of Ontario as a not-for-profit incorporated.
Yes.
The whole startup company. Yeah. And I think, I don't know if we've really gotten too far into this on the pod, but Shambhavi, Sham, is, I would say probably, if not the first, like the second most important person around the inspiration to the direction which OBM has taken in 2024. Because for those of you who don't know, the original OBM concept was established in the spring of 2023. And I thought at that time that it was going to be resume and cover letter development and exclusively job search strategy things. I think at the time, and anybody who's listening to this from the OG 2023 team, I think we were talking about a podcast back then too, but for a multitude of reasons. And I would say probably in 2023, the thing that discouraged me the most was that I didn't like the idea of charging people for things. I didn't like it being an exchange of money for me doing a service with a resume for people when you could get so much of that information online. And I struggled immensely with what would be the cost that you would charge a person, especially a person who doesn't have a job, a person who's already living basically at the poverty line. And then for me to say, and now you have to pay me $100 an hour to coach you through this experience. I grappled with that tremendously. And I think that just kind of deflated the wind in my sails. So I would say by probably July or August, I had just felt so defeated by what I wanted OBM to be that I tabled it. I put it on the back burner. I felt like I discouraged a lot of people because there was a lot of interest at first, but there was a lot of things also happening in my personal life. It just wasn't the right time. And then introduced Sham.
And I just did an assignment.
She just did that. Yeah, she just did an assignment. What class did I teach you?
You taught us too.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, we had a whole day together. Yeah. Oh, I remember. It was, I don't remember what the first one was. What the heck was that first one?
I don't remember. One was issues in leadership.
Yes.
I remember that because I was recently talking to somebody about it. And the other one was...
I want to say it was like healthcare leadership, maybe?
That was this one. And I think there was another one pretty similar to this. But...
yeah, I don't remember. Anyways, we had back-to-back classes on a Friday, by the way. And nobody ever came. And I basically cried.
One time, I remember you got us all on Zoom call. And you were like...
what are you guys doing? Torturing
don't
me.
show up.
I don't even have the authority to say that. Like,
No, this is me putting it in my words, but it was basically saying if you don't show up, I swear to God.
you're gonna break my heart.
I was like, fine.
No, I'm a bit of a preacher sometimes when I feel like the students aren't engaged, especially if it's like senior level students. It's like, now is the time to take your education seriously. Like, you don't have another chance to make an impression on your instructors, and your instructors are going to be your references when you graduate from this program. So
I think there's like a good reason though why like a lot of people stop showing up for lectures after the first habitual weeks. Because before, like in all the semesters, so for example, let's say the first semester, we did nicely kind of a joke.
no, because it was all online.
It was all online.
And you were snoozing during class.
Oh, absolutely. And I was trying to be as serious as possible. I'm not a very, I can stick to the syllabus person. Like,
Self-directed, yeah.
the professor can be this amazing professor and the subject would be this great subject and I would still not show up to classes. Not because I'm being stubborn or anything. It's just because, something happens. Like, you're like, oh, maybe we'll catch up or whatever. But
You always tell yourself that you'll catch up.
yeah.
And I do not want to be a hypocrite, okay? Because when I was in school, I definitely did not go to every single class. Like, I would go to the classes that I enjoyed, but even the ones that I enjoyed, I didn't go to consistently.
Oh, true. And
Yeah.
it's like, I've gotten better, like, as I moved up, but you should have seen me in 10th grade. I was out of school for 5 months.
Just for fun? Like,
Just for fun. I started competing in, like, different things. Like, I started going for youth parliament and basketball and shit, and just out, like, sanctioned by my school, be like, don't attend class.
Can we just go backwards for a second? Because you finished your initial studies in India. What was your degree in India?
I did my bachelor's in proteomics, genomics, and biochemistry.
Yeah, when people ask me, like, oh, what was her background? I'm like, I don't know. I can't even spell the word that she just said. So very smart. And you worked in a genetics lab?
Saying that I was smart, I wasn't.
I think smart people deny that they're smart because I do the same thing. Like, I'm smart, but I feel like I'm not smart.
I genuinely feel like I basically... are we okay with the words?
Yeah, we're okay with words.
So yeah, I basically shit all of myself for my bachelor's.
Same. Same, I did.
I think I only got serious after like year and a half of my degree, and I was like, oh shit. Because I was like, what am I going to do after this? Because this is obviously a dumbass degree, and I don't know what to do with it. So I might have to get serious. And then I was like, fine, I'll take up 2 jobs, and I'll do some crazy shit. But at the end of the day, as much as I wanted to be in a white coat and sitting in a lab and being this bougie ass scientist, and I just wasn't cut out for it. I'm a gapper. I cannot be sitting around human cells locked up in a lab. It's just not me. And I'm so glad I realized it so early.
Wait.
As much as you wanted to be a bougie woman in a white lab coat, you just could not imagine spending your life with human cells and not actually human people.
I wanted to be this, at that time. I don't know if it was like COVID or what was it, but at that time, there was this big wave of women in STEM. And I was like, hell yeah, that's badass. I want to do that. And I did my few research projects. My final year project was really amazing too. Like that was something.
What was that one on?
We studied like this polyploidy on through colchicine.
What? Okay.
It's like basically we were trying to say that this chemical, so the gout treatment chemical, we're able to use it to create like multiple cell production over cell production, like from a baseline, whatever. But we try to create polyploidy in those cells, and it worked. And we were like, yay, amazing. And then reflecting back on it, it wasn't anything, you know. But I was like, oh, you know what? I can do it, but I won't be really happy doing it. Let me see. And
did you want to be doing something more creative, something more social? Like, did you know at the time what it was in the direction that you wanted to go? Is that why you chose the program you did in Canada?
At that time, I want to say I was kind of isolating myself for my own sanity and mental peace. I don't know where I was in my headspace, but just being by myself and just being more academically inclined was giving me a lot more understanding and clarity to things. So I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to be doing. I am able to sit on a table and study for 10 hours. Sure, let's do that. And did it work long term? No. It was basically like romanticizing your life as an academic student. That was my drive at that moment, but you can only romanticize something that you're not really into for so long, right?
It's like you're having to convince yourself of what you think you're supposed to want, but it's not actually what in your heart is what you want to be doing. If that,
I think that was that. And also like the fact that I enrolled into a master's program for stem cell, and that was like in my city, was like 5 kilometers away.
What was your city?
Bangalore.
Yes. So
it was where I did my bachelor's too. So it was like really close proximity. It was the perfect ideal fit, but I was like, nah, let me move 7 continents away and absolutely mess my entire life up.
Just throw things on its head and see what happens. And did you apply to multiple programs here, or did you just apply to one, or what was the deal?
So I actually got talking to this shout out IDP, I guess, but I got in touch with...
What does IDP stand for?
IDP is basically like this. They also conduct IELTS, the English Language Proficiency Exam.
Oh, right.
But they also have like these university and college intakes, like they help you with. And it's basically like a voluntary service for them, because I don't remember them charging me anything. But they just told me that these are the programs available, and it's basically Google information, but more filtered. And they said, these are the programs available for somebody who's looking into going into healthcare. And I realized the only pattern was health admin. And I was like, do I want to be in health admin? I don't even know. Like at that time, I wasn't like really sure of what health admin would be. Like I know when I was working during my bachelor's, I was having a similar position to a coordinator, but I did not at that time comprehend that is what it's going to translate into. Right. At that time, I was like, I really don't know what this is, but I just feel like I'll figure it out. And I was like, okay, let's ball. So I only applied to Conestoga. And
was that because the recruiter was like, these are your best odds or anything? Like
looking at the duration of the course, the locations.
Nice.
I wanted to be closer to Toronto than being like, I don't know, like Thunder Bay. Right?
And so you ended up in Brantford. We love Brantford. We love our family from Brantford. Hi, Brantford. We love you. No. But if you've never lived, if you've lived in Brantford your whole life, you love Brantford. But if you've lived all over the world, you've lived in major urban city centers, you've traveled all over the world, and then you find yourself living in Brantford.
I'll explain what it feels like.
Explain.
It feels like, you know, the Clown Town horror movies.
I don't.
After 9 o'clock, that town turns into this dead ass where the light is just blinking slowly. It's that.
Yeah, it goes to sleep. Like, what do you think?
I am so sorry.
9 p.m. Our production today is lived in Brantford her whole life. And listen, there are so many people in Brantford who I love dearly, but I lived in Brantford for a hot minute as well. When I moved out of Toronto, I had an opportunity to get a job at a hospital in London and a hospital in Brantford. And I had to kind of decide which city I was going to move out of Toronto for. London just felt way too far. And I was actually kind of using my job offer from London to negotiate with Brantford, thinking that Brantford was still close enough to Toronto that I would be okay to move there, even though I knew nothing about it. And I don't think I lasted a year, like not even a year. I moved as soon as I could. It just...
See, I love Brantford. I love downtown. I live in downtown.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I live in like as crazy as it can get. And it's still so dead. But at the same time, I think it really worked out for me as a student because I needed everything to be in close proximity. I needed that I cannot go out and be shit-faced drunk every day.
Because there's no like club scene or anything in Brantford really, right?
No.
Like, do you know what I think was incredible? One of the discoveries I've had in Brantford, do you know the spotlight that shines into the sky?
Yeah.
I thought that was the casino, but it's not. It's the strip club.
It's the strip club.
It's the bat signal. It's the bat signal to the strip club. And I remember sitting out on, oh, look, we should go to the casino sometime. Oh, that's not the casino. Oh, what is it? It's the strip club.
Here's something funny. When I go on my night shifts and I'm going to work 8 hours for almost a minimum wage, and I then see strippers roll in for the evening shift.
We call them ladies of the night.
Ladies of the night roll in for their work. Probably gonna work 4 hours, make more than I will probably make in a month.
They'll be making a bag of money.
I do have questions.
We should get a stripper on the pod.
We should.
That would be incredible.
I have been encouraging my friends to turn into strippers so that I can manage them.
I mean, I don't even think you need to go to the stripper route. I mean, just start an OnlyFans.
I've been telling people, so I was like, let me recruit some boys and like just manage them, because I was like, worst case scenario, you have to take off your shirt.
We've just gone off on a way tangent for our origin story. Can we just reel it back in from strippers to the class that I was teaching you in fall semester? Okay, so I was teaching you 2 classes. One of them was issues in leadership. I had a nervous breakdown mid-semester because nobody was showing up for class, and then you decided to start coming a couple times.
I think it was like almost after, I don't even remember if we had midterms. We did have something of a major assignment right before
Success Week. I think we were gearing up for the big assignment, and nobody had come for me to be able to explain the assignment instructions. So,
and then somebody called me and they were like, hey, maybe we should attend classes. I was like,
maybe. Do you remember who that person was?
Well, it was Kat. She wasn't really in your class.
Oh, okay.
But I told her what happened.
Oh,
and
yeah,
she's
yeah.
like,
maybe we should go. Yeah.
She's really nice. Like
I met her at grad, I think.
Yeah, she attends all her classes and stuff. Shout out Kat. But she wasn't in your class, but I remember telling her, go into your classes. It's like, okay, fine. But then we showed up, and I think it was the final assignment, the presentation for issues. It was like a major chunk, and I remember you asking our topics like at the very beginning of the semester to put it on the portal. And I remember putting my topic, and I got a feedback from you saying that
nobody had ever done that before.
Yeah, nobody has. I'm so excited to see what you come up with. And I was like, yay. And then I completely forgot about it.
As you would, yeah.
I probably forgot about it for like 5 weeks straight up. And then you reminded us, hey, assignment due. And I was like, okay, what are we going to do? So I am big on like not having a lot of content on my slides and just talking.
Well, that's proper anyway. That's proper format.
Yeah, because I love talking and it's like so boring to look at a slide. So we did that. And I remember right before that, we had something called... do you remember that elevator pitch for a minute that everybody was supposed to do? Yeah.
That was fun. I love that. That was from the other class.
That was from the other class. Yeah. So, but I remember same classmates. I remember going up and doing my elevator pitch for like 45 seconds. And then this person immediately has a feedback saying that, how are you going to do this if your background's in clinical? I was like, I'm trying to figure that out too.
I don't remember that exactly, but I don't like. What was my feedback that day about that?
You were fine with it. You were like, no, that is something that you can possibly discuss in an interview.
And I would also say that being able to speak confidently and concisely and get your message across in a short period of time, but still have that communication be like meaningful, that's a skill, because some people like we do, yammer on, and you're not really saying anything. You're just like, what you're saying is fluff. But I feel like how you directed yours was very like, this is who I am and this is what I'm all about and this is where I want to be and da da da. And it was 45 seconds, but you covered all of the bases. There was nothing from like an evaluation perspective that I could have faulted you for. It was just like shy of 60 seconds.
You just told us that whatever was needed to be covered, so I made sure that those points were conveyed. But at the same time, the feedback was something that helped me with like understanding why I want to be in leadership in healthcare as well, because the moment that person asked me that question, I was like, listen man, same. But I don't know, but we're trying to figure that out. And I think right after that we started working on our presentation.
I think the next week was presentation week.
Yeah,
starting. And you were one of the last, remember? There was 2 weeks of presentations.
I was the last person in that class.
Yeah.
And I remember everybody so bored and I was like, this cannot be.
Remember I brought pizza?
Yeah, we had pizza. That was like fun. Right after because we had an exam right after.
Yes, right.
God, what a shit schedule.
That was awful. Oh my goodness. Anyway.
But we did the presentation and I remember, I think the topic was the intergenerational difference between Gen Z and Millennial.
Yeah, I asked her to send me the PowerPoint recently. If I'm being honest, I haven't looked at it again, but I will. I'm going to keep it in my files forever and ever. I have Yash's too, by the way.
I have your feedback from that presentation on my desktop. Like it's just like the PDF is there.
Okay, so let's just get into the topic of what your presentation was on. So it was intergenerational approaches to leadership and a comparison between Millennial and Gen Z.
Well, yeah, but we kind of discussed how the new like generation coming in, for example, Gen Z is looking up to the Millennial leadership, whereas Millennials had to face like the Boomer generation as their leaders, and how that is kind of a different dynamic and what is to be expected of the Millennial leadership right now.
Because you also got into how Millennials were raised and how we had this very strange like reward based system. Everybody who participates gets a ribbon. Like,
I feel like in my head, once I get to know a fact, I think I immediately, when I look at a person, my mind is working in a sense that, oh, I know what their issues are.
Yeah.
So
that's actually a really good piece of advice for people. Anytime you're having an issue with a person, just think of them as what they would have been as a child, and imagine that we all are struggling with our inner child demons.
I think it gives you a lot of grace too to deal with people, especially when somebody's being difficult and you look at them and be like,
what kind of trauma did you endure at the hands of your parents?
Yeah, I think a lot of people in my generation are doing that, and I think that's lovely. As crazy and as invasive it is.
No, I don't think so. I think trying to understand human relationships and the way that humans effectively or ineffectively interact is an extremely important thing, because for so many years, I think the idea was that you need to be independent and you need to be strong and you need to be a hard worker and you need to dedicate your life to your career. And it's like now
there was like a template and everybody was supposed to be suited to that. Like, for example, just the calling in sick, right? Like they're expecting that if they're able to show up, so is everybody else, without being considerate of other people. So like, this is an out of context conversation, but the whole point is that it was just looking at how Millennial leadership works. I think it just helped me during that presentation, helped me understand how, for example, my professors or my immediate
counterparts at
work were kind of dealing with this situation, or what their approach and why that was so different. And I think that just helped me a lot, and that was the whole reason why I thought that topic was even important.
Literally sat there during the entire presentation being like, oh my god, she's on to something. This is incredible, she's on to something. I had never even paused to think for a moment about the difference between the younger emerging generation coming into positions of leadership. It I don't know why. It had just never kind of crossed my mind. And you were like calling me out during your presentation. You were like professor does. And I was like, excuse me, but a 36-year-old childless woman is younger than a 26-year-old woman with 3 children. Just saying. And everybody was like, yeah. Everybody was like,
no, but it's just like how I think the generation were brought up, right? And I think that the difference is now very evident in leadership and what issues are being kind of brought forward, and they're like, oh, you need to look at this is a problem. And this wouldn't have happened if you guys weren't like brought off of like a reward based system. I feel like millennials were rewarded for everything. They were given rewards, whether it was
and
intrinsic.
everybody is a unicorn, and everybody is special, and
yeah, everything is rainbow and unicorn farts. Yeah.
And it's funny because even when I am saying that, I want to catch myself and be like, but it's okay, right? Like, because I'm trying to like justify it,
a validation.
I'm trying to validate it in my mind that it's okay that we were raised that way. But
I don't know if it's like being a psychopath, because I don't know if I am, but
sorry.
But it's like, when I approach the millennial generation, whether they're like my people I'm supervising or anything, it's so easy to trick them into doing what I want them to do.
Talk to me about that. Let's pull that apart a bit. How do you trick a millennial to do what you want them to do?
You appreciate them, and you very specifically
you massage their ego.
And you tell them you did a great job. The whole idea of saying you did a great job came for the millennials. Like, that's what boomers did to you all. And I think if you're just kind of, and I mean it in a good way, because when you're like right now, as Gen Z is getting into the leadership positions, I think thankfully so far I've never had to I never had issues so far dealing with people, or like being on a supervisory role, or like something of that sort, or even working a team. I've never had issues with like integrating within that team, or just getting things going.
I think you're very lucky, because it's not always easy to integrate yourself into a team, especially a team that's already been established, or there's a lot of people that have maybe worked there for a very long time, and now you're the new person on scene.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things that has helped me is to just understand where they're coming from. And whether it's like, I don't know, whether it's racism, whether it's like just questioning your authority, whether it's like your
Can we talk about how you got your job?
Oh yeah.
Because the job search, it's 2024. The job search and the workforce is a flaming dumpster fire. Absolutely. And it's very hard to get employment right now. The competition is like fierce. And you landed a job pretty effortlessly.
I did land my first job, and I do have a comparison study going 1 year after, where I have more qualification and more experience. It's just a little bit more difficult now. But when I came here, I was very adamant that I want to work healthcare, because I did not know shit about Canadian healthcare systems, and I wanted to understand what it's like. And I was like, there's no way that I become a part of like I started working at a superstore and I'm able to understand healthcare. It's just
no, working at a grocery store, working at the mall, working at a fast food place is not going to give you any understanding of patient experience at all.
It's the dealing with people. And I think, as much as I say that other professions do help you understand the culture and the competency of a country, but like the citizens, but I feel like when it comes down to healthcare, there's just so many more complicated variables in play that you just have to be in that field, and you have to be deep down, like at the front lines, to understand what's going on. And I was very adamant that I want to get into healthcare. So for the first 4 months, I was unemployed. I was like, whatever happens. Were
you just living off savings? Like, how were you surviving?
Students have a GIC that works for them. So I had my GIC coming in. It's not that much. It's like, I don't even know. I think it has changed now, but we get like a lump sum of around $700 a month or something like that.
You were living off of $700 a month.
Yeah, but I don't have a lot of expenses, so I won't say that it's the best or everybody can do it, but I just don't have enough expenses, to be honest.
You were like your cell phone bill, your rent, and then your
That's it.
food.
Yeah, just basic stuff. So it wasn't, and it's good because when you're a university student, you have a lot of things like, for example, gym membership or stuff like that, and people don't utilize those resources. But anyway, so I wasn't having a lot of expenses. But anyway, I was unemployed for 4 months, and then I remember going for this Rotary Club event that was happening, and one of my friends was a member of the Rotary Club back home, and
As a volunteer, right? You were going to volunteer for this thing?
I was going for a volunteer, but my friend was actually part of the Rotary Club, and he was the one who suggested that, hi baby, he was the one who suggested that I think you should look at Rotary clubs. And I know I've worked with Rotary clubs back at home, but I was never part of it. I was always a volunteer for different events from different other units or whatever. But fast forward, we went to this event, and I remember the director of our company being there, and I didn't know who she was. I love talking. I absolutely love.
Yapper.
Yeah. I love talking. Like, I love listening to people. I love psychoanalyzing them for no reason. I don't tell anybody anything, but it's just my head. It's constantly processing.
You're diagnosing them.
Yeah, it's a problem. And then I was just listening to all of these people talk, and I was like talking to them. And then suddenly I think we were talking about, gosh, I don't even remember. I don't know. We were talking about something, and then I was like, oh yeah. And she's like, what do you do? I was like, nothing. And then she introduced me to the job that I'm in right now. And
did you send her a resume?
No, actually. So she spoke to me, like, we got out of the group. She spoke to me for a quick minute, and I told her like what my background was, and she's like, you know what, just like, let's get in touch. And it was hilarious because right now she doesn't even remember my name. And I worked with that company for a year and a half. I worked 3 locations, 2 positions. I worked crazy hours.
But if you were to see her, she would be like, oh, hey, you.
No, she wouldn't do that.
She wouldn't?
She legit goes, I'm so sorry, I don't remember people's names.
Oh,
and I was
my
like,
goodness.
Okay.
I'm not very good with people's names either, but I remember faces like nothing. They burn into my skull.
I just think that was like, I caught her at a good time. When she was in a good mood, because there's like a lack of interpersonal connection, and I can say that because I can guarantee you nobody from my company is gonna listen to this.
Watch, they all do. Oh my goodness. But it doesn't matter, because the fact of the matter is you put yourself in an environment that somebody recommended for you to try. You ended up meeting the right person at the right time when she was in the right mood.
Yeah, it was a luck, I'm telling you.
Right place, right time.
It was the right place, right time situation, because if there were so many circumstances that could have been different and it wouldn't have worked that way. But at the end of the day, it was like, even when I got an interview, it took them a month. A small company, a company of less than, I want to say, 500 employees. It took them a month to get back to me. And that was after me checking up on them like multiple times. Be like, do you guys want to say yes or no? Like, and I was adamant. So
they didn't even give you an indication after the interview of whether they were hiring you or not?
No, they actually did say that we're going to be, that's the whole point, because they said that they were going to be like getting through to me, and they did not for a very long time. So I was like, what is going on? Am I waiting for like, what is it? And the one day I got frustrated. I was like, you know what, let me get their number. And I called one other manager of ours, and I was like, you guys interviewed me, I haven't heard back. And they were like, oh yeah, shit, I forgot about that. Here's your paper.
Thank you for following up. Here's your contract now.
I was like, thanks, man.
Finally.
Glad. So, but then I was working as an aide. I was
like
working
as a care
aide.
Yeah.
And I worked there for a month at one location. And then we had this thing going on at the workplace. I think it had something to do with like how we were responding to calls that we were getting, because it was like an assisted living situation, so we would get calls if they need help, and it was just a little bit complicated. And we were getting frustrated, everybody was frustrated, nothing was happening. So it was like I had a different approach to that situation. I was like, maybe we do that. And they were like, oh okay, maybe. And thankfully my supervisor, amazing person, Adam, he was very okay with like actually reciprocating to that, and he was like, yes, let's do it. And he's very supportive, amazing supervisor, like and he was the one that after the solution was put in place and started working, he's like, do you want to interview for a supervisor position? And I was like, oh, am I qualified? Like, yeah,
Clearly you just
And-
problem solved a strategic quality improvement initiative.
So I was interviewed after like maybe I want to say 3 weeks at that job, and I started working as a supervisor, and then I transitioned
What was
into
that like amongst your colleagues? Like, did they respect the fact that you got promoted so quickly? Or
For the first 2 months of being a supervisor, I actually, me and Adam and a lot of the management was trying to hide the fact that I'm working the different location, because the different locations unionized. So we were trying to like hide the fact that I'm working there as a supervisor, because people were so mad. And
Oh
then
my goodness.
somebody
Corporate
was
politics.
Yeah, somebody was friends with somebody at the other place, and they figured it out, and they're like, she's just been here a month. How did you refer her and you have not referred me? And it's like, well,
maybe if you would perform like she does at work, then
I don't know. It was just like the way I think. And now that I look back at it, not to be cocky, but I feel like there's just so many issues where a lot of emotions play. As for a lot of people, like they're very emotional about it. Oh, this is how it should be. But you can't do that as somebody who's dealing with different biased opinions and stuff. So I think now that I look back at it and be like, there are things that I'm definitely doing a little bit different. May not be like I'm not sitting on a pedestal, but I'm just saying that the approach to situations with a little bit more open-mindedness
and
just
critical thinking. And so it's safe to assume, and I'm only assuming, that the vast majority of the people you work with are women. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Any other than your supervisor, Adam, are there any other people that are
Now there are a few students who are, I think I can count them on my finger, like 4 or 5 of them.
Okay.
Out of like all 3-4 places. But
this is a really difficult thing in healthcare, because it is so female dominated that there, and I experienced this early in my career, where we say we're supposed to play nice in the sandbox together and women power, rah, rah, rah. But I feel like in healthcare, there is a lot of competitive nature amongst women as opposed to building each other up in your team. Can you?
I do want to ask that, is that majority in leadership positions? Because
I kind of, I mean, I've observed it at every level, I think. Like nurses, there's this whole concept of like eat your young, right? Eat your young mentality. So there can be some unusual dynamics between like senior nurses, Gen X, elder millennial nurses that are, treating the younger emerging Gen Z nurses,
I have like
differently.
this crazy tragic theory for that, but I don't know even if it's like it has any validity to it.
What is your tragic theory?
Have you noticed how there are so many women in like more frontline positions, but as you go up and you look at leadership, it's
all
just
men.
It's all men.
Yeah.
So there's just so few women that get a chance to sit at the round table.
Especially any woman who identifies as anything other than white.
Yeah, and it's so hard for them to get a seat at the round table that the moment they feel like now I need to have my guards up and I need to kill all of my competition, they take their guards up and they have like their fangs out.
They tap into the male mentality of leadership, and I don't know. I can honestly say dozens of times in my career, I have had women who prevented me from being able to pursue opportunities. I had a boss who she tried to prevent me from being able to present at a national conference. She wouldn't approve my day off to go and speak at the conference. So I ended up calling in sick to be able to go to the conference, because I wasn't going to lose the opportunity to do this for my professional development, because my boss was stifling. We call it the glass ceiling, right? It's like you can see through the ceiling, where you want to go, but there's this layer of supervision that's preventing that from happening. And I've had so many women who are, maybe 15, 17 years older than me, who was, you'll understand someday, or you're still young, you'll figure it out. Like reverse ageism, right? Like
it's like, yeah. And I mean, that's all of, I feel
you
like
lie about your age at work too.
I do.
Yeah, I did too when I was in my 20s. I lied about my age all the time.
I think it's funny. In my head,
How
it's
old do you
hilarious.
tell people you are?
32.
Okay, that's a good age.
They buy it.
I mean, and this is not because you look old or anything,
No,
but I think
look
it's because
homeless when I'm at work.
but you carry yourself very maturely. So like even like other people you've met through OBM and whatever, I'll be like, how old do you think she is? And they're like, I don't know, like 29, whatever. And it's like,
yeah. And it's also because when I'm at work, I look so homeless, like barely surviving.
so what, looking homeless is what makes you look older?
Yeah, because I'm just have like my hair up in a bun and like, everybody do your work. So it's the whole, but it's funny to me. I mean, I think it's hilarious. It's not doing anybody any harm. It's a white lie.
Yeah.
And
There were also so many times when I would be sitting at these tables with these people who had been in their, executive leadership role at this like world renowned organization, and I'd be listening to them talk and I would think, I can do your job so much better than you. Like, frustrating to listen to some people in positions of power where it's like, how are you the one who is making decisions about what's happening here?
I think the problem with leadership in healthcare is also that a lot of people just rely on the word policies. If it's working in their favor,
let's circle back on that policy.
If it's working in their favor as somebody who has to answer questions, they will pull out the policy card.
Yeah.
Well, the policy states that. Now, what policy?
The policy
that
that hasn't been updated since 2002. The policy that's collecting dust
it's
in
funny
some
sometimes
binder on a bookshelf somewhere. Like
it's funny because sometimes they will pull out policies from the tags that we're not even part of, like long-term care. We're not long-term care, but we will get tagged by, so the regulations in long-term, well, we're not long-term. So funny because hospitals, long-terms, everybody removed the masks restriction that you constantly have to wear a mask.
Mask friendly now is what we are.
Way before. And we just got it off, like, I want to believe March or April of this year.
They were being hyper vigilant because they didn't want to get pinged for something, I guess. Maybe, I don't know.
I think it was just working in some people's favor.
Oh.
But
PPE costs money. Like, how does that work in anybody's favor?
I think it's a lot to do with funding that we get. But that's like a whole other thing. But the bottom line is that policies is something that they would always pull out. That card is always pulled out. And that happens even when you, like you mentioned, women for women. Like, they will be like, well, you will see, you will figure it out. It's just, the answers are just so blank and so empty that you don't know what they mean. Like, you're constantly confused. Like, for example, I wanted to be trained on this specific course, and I've been asking because I think that would look amazing on my resume. It would be a skill that I'll be able to.
What's the course?
It's a training for it's a geriatric assessment training.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
like MOCA assessment. Like, are you doing psychosocial assessments or something
like that?
Okay, yeah.
So
I could train you on that.
So I was like, I need that certification. I think that certification would look amazing on my resume, right? So
like pieces training? That's a really good one.
Right,
Sorry.
yeah.
You're going to take me off on a tangent. Anyway, continue. Sorry to interrupt.
I wanted to be trained on that for like a year and a half, and multiple opportunities came up. But every time I would be asking them, hey, can I get trained on that? We're just, right now, we're focusing on training people for this course. I don't think we'll be able to fund that right now. And okay,
it just sucks.
it's funny because there were like a lot of job opportunities that came up after that where they needed that as part of their, and I wasn't
But if
qualified.
you had that, then you would have had to leave your role. You wanted to get this training, and then every job after that had this training as a requirement, but because they didn't allow you to get this training, you couldn't apply for those jobs.
No, I think this is something that I observed as a pattern working so far.
Okay, so you've observed this as a pattern.
Yeah, I've observed this as a pattern that every time, if you're working a lot of hours for like a frontline position, they will prioritize you rather do the labor intensive role than push you through for like your career development. And I was blinded by that for a second, but I was like, hell no, because this is not what I want to be doing.
Yeah, it's almost like you give so much of yourself because you think that's going to result in you being promoted, but they look at you as like if I move you from this position, then I'm going to have a really hard time filling these shifts with other people because you pick them up and you're consistent and you show up and you'll stay late. And
I have noticed this with my peers who are, for example, my white counterparts who are amazing workers and they've not been given positions that they deserved and so deserved in a different role where they would be more stable, they would have more hours or whatever, just because they would have to leave a place that they find difficult and they know that the whole role and responsibility and all the burden of that position is being taken care of this one person. Like if they leave, the floor is on shambles.
Right.
So they have held them back. They have not given them the opportunity
That's
to
glass
interview.
ceiling again. This horrendous.
I think that happens a lot. If you're like,
and the only way to, sorry to interrupt, the only way to escape it is to leave. I'm telling you, the only way to escape it is to leave. You will never, ever be able to overcome unless the supervisor or the entire leadership team gets turned over. Yeah. And then a new leadership team comes in and you say, can I do this now or something?
Yeah,
like,
I think observing the room is so important when you're starting a position at a company. Observing the environment and like just this team is so important because you would be able to realize very quickly whether or not going above and beyond is helping you out or you're just gonna be dragged down because you are going above and beyond. So they're like, well, we don't need to promote them anyway because they're putting that much work regardless, right?
I think there is sometimes a little bit of judgment cast upon people who have jumped jobs, like what is like job jumping, I guess. But what I observed is that if you stay at an organization, it's going to take you so much longer to be promoted than if you move to another, like quite literally every time I moved from one organization to the next, I earned at least a $10,000 to $15,000 pay increase.
It's only in healthcare though. Increase. Have you noticed? It's only in healthcare that people are shamed for jumping jobs.
Yeah. Why did you go from this place? Why were you only there for a year? Or why did...
It's healthcare because it's only here because every time I've spoken to, for example, all of the people that I've met so far in different events, everybody from a different career path and different field, marketing and sales, and sales, they are more than appreciated for like, because it says that you're opening a space for somebody, for the next person to come in, right? It's an opportunity here. But in healthcare, they're so adamant on sticking to that one place for 50 years.
I'm not going to say any names or anything, but what I will say is one of my very good friends, she said to me one time, oh, you know that woman who retired and then she came back and was like working part-time, you know who this person is, production, you know. She made a comment to me like, oh, Shannon moved another job. Like she must have a really good CV, and was like making a comment to my friend being like, yeah, she jumps jobs a lot, right? And my friend was like, Shannon's doing great and her career is skyrocketing. Like it doesn't matter that she's jumped jobs. And this is a woman who retired early because she worked at the same hospital for 29 years and she collected her pension at 55 and she left for 5 minutes and couldn't hack it in the real world because she doesn't have an identity other than her position in the hospital. And so she came back within 6 months of being off. Are you kidding me? If I'm retiring, there's no flipping way I'm ever going to come back. But she had attached her identity to this one organization and couldn't even fathom the idea that a person could build their career by working at multiple organizations.
I think you would be able to see a pattern in people who actually are like the two different chain of thoughts, but the one chain of thought, if you see the reason why they got into healthcare, is very different from people who are jumping positions and playing multiple roles and kind of being creative in that space versus people who are like sticking to that role and just pushing through. The reason why they got into healthcare is so different.
Yeah. And if maybe I'm misinterpreting, my experience, but I feel like I am a better leader because I have observed circumstances in so many different environments, and I've seen so many different ways that systems have been established, and I've seen so many different structures in the way that things have been done. I feel like that makes me a better leader than just knowing one way of doing things and that being the only way of doing things, because I've had so many times when I've come into an organization and I've been like, why do you do that way? Like, why is that?
I think,
and people are like, I don't know, I've just always done it that way.
Yeah, competent leaders, like, of course, my experience is not that great. Like, it's not, I've not worked in healthcare for 50 years. I don't have a billion roles to compare with, but as much as I have looked at different leaders and I interact with a lot of them on different professional levels and social levels as well, I have always observed that if a leader has been competent in the position they're in right now, they have skipped a lot of, like, they have like jumped a lot of roles. They have a reason, like they have a valid reason to be in healthcare, because healthcare is not for everybody. And I think we have discussed this on multiple different episodes. I think the position, for example, we have had, like, I don't know if what the sequence of it, but like whether it's a social worker, whether it's like somebody
OT,
who's OT,
like any allied health or clinical.
Yeah, the reason why they got into that field and they're so competent in that role is because the reason they got into it was something to do with their passion, something to do what they believed in. Whereas there are people in healthcare leadership roles who basically got into those frontline positions because that had a good pay. Yeah,
and they didn't practice as a clinician for longer than 2 seconds before they jumped, into leadership. So I find there are so many people in leadership as well who are so disconnected, out of touch from what's actually happening at the front line, especially post-pandemic, especially in the toxic work culture, especially men. Oh my goodness. I had a VP one time. It was a horrific snowstorm was coming in, and I said to the VP, I was like, should we upstaff? Like, I'm telling you, I've worked here for a long time. I can tell sort of the trends and what happens with healthcare workers. If a snowstorm is coming, they will call in sick so that they don't have to drive in the snow. And I said to him, I was like, we should upstaff. His email back to me was, this is Canada. Winters are hard. People can drive to work. Did not a woman get into a car accident on the way to work in a ditch? And I emailed him and I was like, we have someone in the ditch. I'm sending, he's like, send a taxi to go and pick her up. I'm like, no, she was just in a car accident. Like, she's not coming to work and now we are short. We should have upstaffed. You know who you are if you are listening to this.
I'm just going to say, like, I think I stalk people a lot on social media in a very respectful way.
It's incredible. She's like Sherlock Holmes of sleuthing. It's amazing.
When it comes to like people's career paths, I love understanding how they got to where they are. I think it's just for my own, kind of understanding of what I can be doing potentially. And every time I've looked at male, like a man in a leadership position, I've always been like, why? Like, I get it, you're qualified.
What is it specifically? Like, is it,
because how are you trained in food and hospitality and you're leading, you're the director of a long-term care? Why is that happening? But yeah, and I would,
men in leadership, holy doodle. Yeah,
men in leadership, I think people need to understand that as every career path and every field has their own nooks and crannies, I think leadership for healthcare needs to have this understanding of specificity, that you cannot just transition from different fields into leadership in healthcare.
Yeah, there's also something to be said about the lack of support and training that they give someone who's moving from being a man at the same level as their peers. Okay, you've worked with these people for 3 or 4 years, and now a position has come up to manage the team of people that you've worked alongside with, your peers, your people that you've had drinks with on Friday nights, like people that you've talked shit about, leadership with, and now all of a sudden you've been promoted to manage your team, and it can be extremely difficult to navigate how to, figure out your friendships now with the people that you work with. And there's actually a huge sort of unspoken rule that you're like, you have to cut those friendships because I just could never. That was something that I really struggled with, at periods of time in my career. And my solution was to quit because I wouldn't sacrifice my friendships because the organization had some, had me under their thumb about like holding these people accountable for shit that I just didn't believe in.
I have a good example for that. A really good manager for our company's one other program is somebody who used to work front lines, and now she takes care of, I want to say she is working, she has the responsibility of at least 3 people. Like 3 different roles is fulfilled by just her. And she's an incredible leader. Some people have issues, some people don't. It's with every leader.
Yeah,
right?
not everybody's gonna like you.
But
That's
she and
just the
I were
reality.
in a course together. We were doing a course together, so we were doing this discussion about how you transition from, how you deal with that one bias of working with a peer to immediately becoming their, somebody telling them.
What does the research say? How are you supposed to navigate that?
I don't know what the research say, but what she did was something that kind of stuck with me. And I know it's difficult for me to take that approach because I still work both roles. So I still have people, and it's also useful for me because I worked my different roles don't interlink when it comes to the workforce. So when the place where I'm a supervisor, I don't have people working as PSWs where I work as an aide. So that is
no
good.
conflict of interest.
No conflicts. But for her, she told me that, she was explaining how she was able to, the moment she got that role, she sent out this personalized messages to everybody she used to work with, who she was now going to be like supervising or managing. And she said, we had an amazing time, but that's what it was. She burned the bridges in a very nice, respectful way.
Because her career was more important to her than her friendships.
Yes. And also, like, obviously there are friendships that goes way beyond it, but it's just that you have to be making that decision for yourself. And I see that is something that happens with all leaderships, whether you're in sales, whether you're in marketing, whatever. But I think that just changes a lot.
But like they just don't prepare you enough. Like I've never ever felt prepared because I think this has happened to me twice. I think, yeah, twice. It's happened to me twice in my career where I was at the same level and then I was promoted, and how do you discipline someone? Like, how do you discipline someone that is having an extremely hard time in their life because personal details about what's happening, but you're having to follow some HR policy, and have the documentation to support it. Like,
I think I would just say that when it comes to like both parties, whether you are at that position where you're not being heard, or you're at the leadership position where you, because of whatever policy says, you're gonna have to ignore what this person's begging you to look at. I think it just comes down to like understanding what values you hold with that organization. And if that, for example, let's say they're not considerate for me being sick constantly, then my approach to that is, I know this job is important to me, yes, but is this the only possible place I can be employed at? And what values does that company like? What values does that company associate with me?
I think the thing I struggle with sick calls in healthcare, this is something that I struggle with because I am not a healthy person. I haven't been a healthy person my entire life. And so I am a person who calls in sick. I have to call in sick because I'm told not to come to work when I am sick. And I will only call in sick for physical illness. Maybe a few times in my life I've called in sick for mental health illness because there's been a lot of things that have happened in my life that have, contributed to my mental health. And it's like, don't even think about calling in because you're having a bad mental health day and you're depressed and, you're passively suicidal. Like, don't even think about calling in sick. No, but if you are dying with COVID, okay, all right, that's a valid enough reason to call in sick sometimes. but there's just this horrific culture in healthcare. It's like, we're all healthcare professionals. Just because you don't get sick 6 times a year doesn't mean that I don't get sick six times a year.
No,
And just
you
because
know-
you show up to work when you have a back injury doesn't mean that I'm going to show up to work when I have a back injury. Like, we should all be treated fairly and equitably based off of our own personal health circumstances, and not feel like we're going to be on the receiving end of judgment or I don't know, like, it's just
like I said, like, it's, you would be able to observe the difference with the decisions these leaders are making for you based off of, like, well, a very broad spectrum. One of the spectrums to look at would be the generation that they have been, you know, trained by. And if your leaders are like boomers, I mean, they have amazing qualities, yes, but at the same time, they also try to mold everybody with the same mold, and it doesn't work.
You know that one guy on Instagram who makes those reels where he compares how all the different generations respond to circumstances at work?
Oh, Nurse John.
I like Nurse John, but it's not Nurse John. He kind of sits at his computer and he wears the Snuggie when he's the millennial.
Yeah.
And the one that I watched a couple weeks ago was like how the different generations respond to sick calls. And Gen Z was like, "Oh, you're sick. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear. I hope you feel better really soon." And the millennial was like, "Oh no, am I going to get sick? What do I got to do? Oh, am I going to have to cover that person? Oh my goodness, I better update my calendar. Is somebody covering for them?" And then the Gen X is like, "They're sick again. Okay, well, it's fine. We'll figure it out." And then the boomer is like, "Sick again? I can't believe they're sick. This is ridiculous. We're going to have to follow up with HR. We're going to have to get paper." Like, so clearly how each generation responds to this.
I know this
kind of
is like
thing.
a crazy topic, and it can go on forever, but the bottom line is it is very important to see and I think it's, for me personally, why this topic was even important was because you can always tell like what generation that leader belongs to just based off of the approach they take for multiple different scenarios, right? And I think if nothing works out for you as somebody, as Gen Z millennials going into your field, I think just looking at the leadership and looking at the people and what they talk about their leaders in the green rooms, I think that is important to look at. And the moment I sit with my, even as a supervisor, when I sit with my when I sit with my PSWs during their break and they start talking and I'm just sitting there listening to shit because they talk in front of me, because obviously
because they could trust you.
I mean,
If they didn't feel like they could trust you, they wouldn't say anything in front of you.
When I'm not telling them what to do, or when I'm not like being authoritative, I'm a very chill person to hang out with, even at work. I don't think there should be like a barring of like, I am made of gold and I am untouchable, like stay 5 feet. I don't do that shit.
We're all human.
Like the moment I have to tell you what to do because I'm qualified to do so, I will do it. I will switch and you will know. But other than that, it's pretty chill. So when they're talking and you hear about these other, you know,
situations,
managements
managers, leaders,
and like issues that has happened, and you're like, okay, so that is one perspective and I see where they're coming from. So when I'm sitting in a meeting and people are yapping about management, because management, that's just management. When you're discussing, there's no frontliner sitting there with you telling about what they're thinking, right? But when you're sitting in the management meeting and they're going on and on about what they're facing, and suddenly you're like, you know what, that's not the entire truth. And then you just have a little bit more clarity to approach that situation differently. And I think people need to do more of that. Like they need to, with all due respect, chill the fuck out, because like like sitting
why
on a
do we
gold,
take our jobs so freaking seriously all the time? Like, it's insane to me how serious some people take their job, how serious some people take themselves.
they take themselves, people take themselves
Lord.
too seriously, like
Way too seriously.
like you can be professional in your job and not take yourself seriously. Like you are not the end of the world doesn't revolve around you. Let go
This
of narcissism.
organization was here before you. This organization will be here after you. Like, you are not special.
Yeah, like joke about yourself a second.
Absolutely.
I think people who find it difficult, even Gen Zs, gosh, I think, and I see them dooming the hell out of themselves when they do that, like taking themselves so seriously in a setting with peers. Like you're not even dealing with different levels, you're sitting with your groups and you have all this toxic competitive and like how
nature,
dare you say that about Mystic? Chill, it's fine.
You want to know what I want to do right now?
Yeah,
I want to go back to the class that we had together, because your presentation was all about this difference in leadership. And I want to go back to how I thought about your presentation for weeks. Like it was, I'll tell you, I know the exact date. I know the exact date because my mom's funeral was on December 18th. And I had to get through that last week of classes. And nobody knew that I was going through the death of a parent. I don't think I like put out a vibe that I was, nobody knew that I was like grieving a horrible, horrible, horrible circumstance that had happened in my life. And I had the funeral on the Monday and your presentation was on the Friday. And I just said, I got to just get through Friday. And then I had to do my marking, and then it was Christmas, and then we went on a vacation. And the entire time I remember, you know, laying on the beach being like, what are we going to do about this leadership and differences in leadership? And then so the new semester starts January, you know, winter semester. And it was like maybe week 3 or 4. And this guy came up to me. It was a second semester or first semester class for them. I can't remember. And he came up to me and he was like, after the lecture, he goes, how's Olive? And I don't think I had ever mentioned about Olive. I talk about my dogs a lot, but I at that point, I don't think I had said anything about them. Certainly hadn't said their names. And how's Olive? And I was like, she's good. Like, how do you know who Olive is? And he was like, well, I started following you last year when I was still in India. Like Olive Branch, like didn't you start that? Isn't that who you are? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I specifically took your class so that I could learn from you. And I was like, what? Like, how do you know me? And why do you know me? And why is this happening? And he was like, can you please start that back up again? Like, that was really important. He's like, if you start it back up, I'll get everybody to follow you. Like, and then he like told all of his classmates, and he made me write the Instagram handle on the board, and all of his like 14 people like started following me, you know, in that moment. And I was like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing right now? Like, how did this person, you know, think of me all this time later? And, you know, was what I was doing actually, you know, important? And was I just not on the right track at that point? And we could probably look back in the emails when it was exactly that I emailed you. It was 3 a.m. for sure. And I grappled with how I was going to find you, because you had you had finished your studies, right?
No. That was my final semester.
You were in your final semester. And that was another thing too. I was like, I don't know what the rules are about like crossing the boundary of professor to student when she's still enrolled in the program. But I sleuthed. You'd be proud. You are already proud. But I went in to find your personal email so that I wasn't emailing your Conestoga email. Don't ask me how I found your personal email. I think it was on like, I don't know, maybe the student enrollment list or something like that. Anyways, I found your Gmail. And I was working nights, and I just said, you probably don't remember me or whatever I said. Do you remember what the email said? I don't remember.
It was a long email, and I was constantly watching reels, procrastinating, doing an assignment. And then I see that and I'm like, oh. And then I immediately open it on my laptop. I was like, I have to get off of my phone because this is long.
So the notification came through on your phone and you were like, what? And then you pulled your laptop.
Yeah, because I pulled it out. I was like, maybe it's just, I don't know. I don't even remember. Maybe I like forgot something.
I don't know. Yeah, what?
And I opened it.
Because it was how many, like it was at least a couple months later.
Oh yeah,
like,
it was, I think I want to say
2.5, 3 months.
Feb, March.
I think Feb, yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And I opened it and it was like long, and I was like, oh wait. And then I go on my laptop and I read this whole thing. I was like, hell yeah, what are we doing? And we just wanted to meet at that time. Yeah. But you introduced what OBM was. And I was like, why didn't you tell us before? Like,
I don't know. I have a very weird thing about like, I don't want to promote OBM as some like weird personal thing. Like, I don't know. I have a really hard time in my classes. Like, I don't even introduce it at the beginning of the semester. I wait until the end of the semester to tell them that I have a business. Like, I just don't want anyone to ever think that I'm talking about the business for some like weird personal gain. And so that was when we decided to go the not-for-profit route.
Yeah, because no matter what you do, people are going to think you're starting a business for your own personal gain, because nobody's ever able to comprehend that something can be just out of because you feel passionately about something.
I cannot tell you how many people have said, why are you doing this? Like, why are you doing this?
Like, why are you
feel
pooping?
like what
stop.
what is your MO here? Like, what do you get out of this? And I think that actually, I get really sensitive about that, because even though I turn the concept from a for-profit concept to a not for-profit concept, like, this OBM is not even my business. The corporation is registered with the province of Ontario. I don't own this business. Mm-hmm. If at some point we turn into a charity, I have to decide to give up my position on the board and maintain CEO status, or give somebody else the position of CEO and maintain my position on the board. And if I give up my position on the board, I have to be voted back onto the board. I don't own anything to do with OBM. And guess what? I'm paying for the whole damn thing. So if there's anybody out there who thinks that this is being done for some weird selfish gain, it's not. I've had so many circumstances that have happened in my life where shitty things have happened and shitty people have come into my life, that when the last really shitty thing happened, I was like, I need to create something so good. I need to create a company that does good for other people, because if I am putting good out into the universe, maybe good will come back to me. So if there is some selfish thing about what I'm doing, all I'm trying to do is be a good person so that the universe rewards me in some way. There's zero financial gain to any of this.
Okay.
I'm downloading a lot onto this podcast right now, but that's how I feel.
No, I get that. And I feel like every time somebody asks you the question of like, why are you doing this? It's just a pitch. Make a pitch.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who they are.
I don't know
like,
what I'm supposed to say. Like,
that's what I do. Every time somebody asks me what OBM is and why am I a part of
motorcycles are driving me nuts. Continue.
But
sorry.
every time somebody asks me what OBM is, that's a pitch for me. Mm-hmm. I'm selling it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if they're even buyers. Mm-hmm. I just know like it's worth selling, and it doesn't matter whether or not they like it, but at least my selling skills are getting better.
Yeah. I think I'm getting a little bit better about that elevator pitch thing too. Like, I usually sort of start by saying, well, the workforce is broken and I'm really concerned about what public and social services are going to look like in 10 years. And I would like to be a part of improving that process for the young and emerging leaders that are coming into the workforce. I don't think it needs to be some, well, I had this horrific out of body experience and I, was tied to this issues in leadership class and intergenerational, leadership. Like, I don't get into that really as much anymore, but I do always talk about you and the difference between generational approaches to things. I do always allude to how important that was to kind of driving the model of what OBM is, as opposed to it just being like, let me edit your resume for you, when like ChatGPT can do that for you in 5 seconds.
My elevator pitch for OBM is actually quite different.
Tell me it. I don't even know if I know your elevator pitch.
I recently gave it to somebody who has nothing to do with healthcare, who is just like a friend. I had to pitch it because they came out of the blue and they're like, what are you doing? I was like, oh shit. And I realized at that moment that I think the way I look at OBM is very different from probably a lot of people, or even the picture that we're right now currently putting forward. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, I'm more of a logical person in that sense. So when I was telling them about OBM, my idea was what we're trying to do, what are we trying to solve, and at the end of the day, how we're doing it. And it was so simple that it was almost like, how is that going to work?
It was like your elevator pitch in class.
Yeah, it was like, it's very point forward. It was like this, and this. So this is the problem, this is the solution, and this is how we're doing that solution.
Man, I need you to coach me on that. I always get so like, I don't know. It's so personal to me, right? Like, it's it's so personal to me. So I feel like I need to make it more factual. And
I feel like if it's so personal, I think it becomes a little bit more difficult to translate it for that person, because if it's going with your emotions, they don't feel the same.
No, and that's another thing that I've had such a hard time with this whole process is like nobody will ever love OBM as much as I do, because it's like the birth of a brainchild. Like it's the birth of, you know, something that couldn't imagine in my wildest dreams what it's turning into. And I think there's a lot of fear associated with it failing. I've said that many, 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 many times that
I remember you texting me about this, that you feel like nobody else loves OBM as much as you do. And I think that's okay, because nobody else has to love you because if they do, they would be just as crazy and frantic about it. And then we would constantly have conflict of interest and nothing will ever get done. Yeah. So some people need to love OBM. Some people need to be passionate about OBM. And some people just need to be part of it for a very small period of time. But that is completely up to them and what they associated with. Like, we're gonna have to like get people who have nothing to do with anything OBM cares for. Maybe they're just in for the money, but we have to appreciate that, because that's also
there is no money. So don't come for us. There's zero money.
But like, that's the point. Like, I don't think everybody needs to have the same level of passion or love or appreciation for something. I think they just need to do what they're qualified to and what they can contribute, and if they want to contribute it in that sense. And I don't think anybody else should, not even me, should be loving OBM as much as you do, because if that is the case, I will be fighting tooth and nail with you about what we should and shouldn't be doing. Yeah. If I didn't agree with something, I would be like, absolutely
no, that would be detrimental. I mean, I hope people will tell me if they think I'm going off the rails on stupid shit.
But that's the thing. Like, it is your idea. I have the concept of, fine, there's a leadership difference. It's not even a concept. There's research published on it. I observe it. I use it. I wouldn't have, or nobody else would have been able to process this piece of information and translate it into something that OBM is. It is something that's the uniqueness about every individual. Like, they all have these great, amazing ideas, and they would never be able to process it the way somebody else would, right? So you just kind of have to take credit for what you did.
Yeah, it's extremely hard to explain a vision that you have in your mind when it's so dynamic and it's so multifactorial and it's so, you know, complicated. It's very, very complicated. Not just starting a business in general is complicated, but when you're starting a not-for-profit business, there's a completely different tax process. There's a completely different licensing process. In order to go from a not-for-profit to a charity, there's a whole separate process that you have to go through, which costs a lot of money. And I just think that there are a lot of people in the world who have brilliant ideas and brilliant concepts, but it's whether they're able to actually bring that brilliant idea and concept to fruition. And the fact that it's to fruition, right? Like we're doing this thing. It's happening. We haven't made impact as fast as I want to make impact, I feel. And maybe that's subject to my own weird perception, is I feel like I haven't made impact, but people are like, you're making impact every day. And I'm like, but how? I don't know.
let me put it my way, because let's just see how it has impacted my career choice and the way I thought about. Before I started with OBM, I did not know what I wanted to do. My whole idea was...
I hate motorcycles. I hate them so much. Sorry, continue.
It's okay. Before I started with OBM, I did not have any idea what I wanted to do. Like, I know I was in a leadership position. If I continued with it, I would have eventually maybe grown up a little bit with like the same pattern of like, so jobs or do this. Right now, at this moment, I have 10 times more clarity on what I want to do. I want to be more in a business.
Yeah, you're thinking about doing your MBA. Yeah. Are you going to write the GMAT?
Yes, I'm preparing for it.
Nice.
So it's very different from what I was thinking for my career a year ago. And
why do you think business is the avenue you want to pursue now?
Because OBM, like, for example, all the events that we've been through and like all of the different social and all of the people that have interacted that would not have interacted if it wasn't part of OBM.
No kidding.
Because there was no motivation for me to randomly go to like a socio next event that had nothing to do with healthcare. Be like, why would I go there? And then you look at it and you're like, oh, okay.
There was a method to my madness, you know.
Yeah,
I chose the things that I did. I didn't want to go to conferences where I knew all of the shit already. Like, I've been to so many healthcare conferences, I could lead the conference myself. I was like, I don't want to bring people to conferences where they're going to learn the same things they already know. I want to go to conferences and immerse ourselves into areas in, you know, whatever that is going to teach us something that will help us grow OBM in a different way. And that Social Next conference resulted in
I agree with that, because I have been through this like retirement home, some whatever the hell that was, but
and
I
we
went
were
there.
the only healthcare people there.
Yeah.
We were the only healthcare people at this social media conference downtown Toronto at the Mars Center.
I went to this healthcare conference and I felt like I was so out of sorts. I did not belong there. What the hell was that? I know. And then I went to Social Next and I was like, I'm home. Like, this is so cool.
So you used the app. So the Social Next conference, you had to download this app before. Was it before, or did you download the day of?
Well, they just had like their passes on it, so we were supposed to download it before.
Oh, I didn't. I didn't even know that it was before. But you had this app, and you had scheduled all of these meetings with all of these people that day, right?
My whole intention was to understand like how social media was being used by different I want to say fields,
like there was marketing people, there was business people, tech, a lot of tech. Yeah,
there was a lot of tech because of the AI theme this year.
Oh yeah, AI was the theme across every event we've been to. Even the geriatric medicine one that we went to at McMaster, they talked about AI.
Okay, like it's just all of these, and I was just talking to different people who were somewhere. Like they had a mention of mentorship on their profiles, and I was like talking to them and like how they're dealing with the whole mentorship and their career.
You had some really great conversations with people where you were like, if you were mentoring someone, what would be the most important thing? And you were like, and the one woman said something that I loved about her brain.
Yeah, she said that her brain has value, so if she's putting time into that, like it's valuable, right? So if she's putting her time to mentor you, you need to have specific goals. You need to know what you want to do with this mentorship, or your question needs to be clear. And that was like, okay, I'm gonna fix my questions for the next interview. But anyway, but she's like, you need to know what your purpose is. You need to know the time frame, and you need to be very specific about what you're trying to achieve out of something.
Yeah.
And yes, you can eventually come out and learn a lot more than what you were expecting, but you still need to have goals.
Yeah. And when you told me that, ever since then, anytime, like in every single one of my classes, when I'm, you know, I give advice in my classes about their job search strategy and stuff. And I tell students, do not message someone on LinkedIn and say, hey, can you get me a job? That is not how you are going to get a response from a senior executive leader. They probably get 20, 30, 40, 50, you know, messages to say, hey, can you get me a job? The most effective way to make a, you know, connection with that person is to connect with them on something human about them. So if you've like identified something on their profile that, you know, you'd like to know more about, or you studied at the same, or you worked or studied at the same organization or institution, draw some human connection to that person. And then once you've engaged with a little bit of back and forth about that, let them know about your interest in, you know, opportunities that might arise. And if they ever think of anything, you know, that you might be a good fit for, then, you know, let you know. Don't just go into it being like, can you get me a job? Like, do you know of any places that are hiring? That is not the way to go about it. You have to be very methodical.
I honestly did not think that people were doing that, because why would you do that? But now looking at it, even through OBM, I'm realizing like so many people are doing that.
And I hate that I have to do this, but like I have to set boundaries with the messages that I respond to, because there are so many messages. There's so many messages and you just can't respond to all of them. But I can tell you, to all of you, I cannot respond as much as I wish I could. But it's the ones that I'm going to respond to where the person has made a personal touch to something, or I saw you speaking at this event, or I've heard, through my classmate that you have done work with this, could you talk to me more about that? Like, it's not just
have specific goals.
Yes.
Like
identify very specific questions that you have.
You need to know what you're asking this person, because I know I have been blinded at a lot of different levels. And right now, even talking about my job search now, it's so different from how my first job whatever went. Like, it's so different. Like, I've been struggling for a few months now.
You've had a heck of a time. My goodness. The 9-minute interview phenomenon. That post reached like 23,000 people on LinkedIn. Nobody knows, but that screenshot of text, is it okay?
Okay. That's me.
That's her. And the first time it happened, you interviewed at that like optometrist, like McDonald's Corporation, whatever it was.
Yeah, that was pathetic.
It was what do you call it? When something is a chain. It was an optometrist chain clinic or something. And she was going prepared to go into this interview. I was expecting, to hear from her like an hour after, and you texted me like 12 minutes after.
That was a joke.
Yeah.
No, that was.
And then the woman was like going to give you the job, and then she recanted and didn't give you the job.
So the interview was really unprofessional because I was sitting there discussing about her daughter.
And she commented on your not having an accent or something, didn't she?
Yeah, it was
you
very
don't have an
unprofessional.
accent. Yeah.
It was very unprofessional.
Production's like
No, it was really that interview was very unprofessional. And I was like, so at that moment, because I was still in a very weird place,
you were just so wanting out of your job so badly.
I just wanted to get out of where I was right now. I was like, you know what, even if this comes in, I'll just take the hours, because it was still giving me the opportunity to continue with my few hours that I'm pulling here.
Yeah.
And
she was questioning if you were going to keep both jobs or something. And you're like, it's not going to be an issue because whatever. And she seemed to be okay with it.
I'm like, I don't even know what happened, but I'm glad that didn't go through, because that interview was so unprofessional. We were discussing about their personal lives. It was just weird.
Yeah.
My second interview, I think we've already discussed it on another episode, but it was also like really short. It was a 15-minute segment with a 4-panel interview, and it was.
You had prepared so much you wanted this job so badly.
Yeah, I read,
and
I am telling you,
they made you believe that you got it. Like, they made you believe like you were a perfect fit, and like,
I have never prepared for an interview this much. I went and read my entire research paper.
Yeah.
I read the entire thing.
I feel like I sent you stuff from health information management curriculum and stuff. Like,
No, I went back and I read tools that I used back then that I probably did not know as much about that I knew now. I was like so prepared for it. But it did not go through. So,
but the sick thing is, it was like they already knew who they were going to hire, but they scheduled these 15-minute whatever segments, phony fake interviews, because clearly if you're scheduling a 15-minute time block, you don't have any intention of really getting to know this person well enough to make a definitive decision about whether they're the person that's right for your team. But because HR has all of these weird, well, we got to do our due diligence and we have to interview 5 people. Even if we already have an idea that we're going to give it to this person internally, we still have to show on paper that we interviewed 4 other people to say that the person internally is still the most capable person for the job. Why? Why do we do that?
I'm honestly very over with that frustration. I feel like
I'll never be.
I think this is something that can only change once people who have been struggling with this phenomena are actually in that position, because I don't think people who are doing this right now have ever been in a job market hunt where things were this bad.
No, I don't think so either.
They were ever at that place. They have never been through a period of
like
job
what it does to your ego, what it does to your self-worth, what it does to your confidence, and it's like, I never want to interview again because I was so gaslit in that 15-minute fake one.
No, that's 100% true. Like for me, I am a comparatively confident person. I'm not, I won't say egoistic, but I try to be confident with my conduct and just how I carry myself. But
there's nothing wrong with being confident. Don't diminish your confidence. You should be proud that you're confident.
The way these interviews messed my head up.
You were so
I was
heartbroken.
a wreck. Like, and it wasn't like,
and you were like, it's me. There's something wrong with me. And I'm like, Sham, it's not you.
No, I had to like, okay, so the trajectory of this year has been hilarious because I was still a student working full-time or more than full-time hours and looking for another job, doing my final semester with capstone and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm gonna give it all of these things are gonna get all of me, and OBM is gonna get me. So everything was going at the same time. And then slowly one thing started falling apart, like me intentionally
self-sabotaging,
because first school stopped, and then I was like, okay, we're done with this, checklist done. And then we were like, okay, we got to reduce our hours because we don't have a sense of life. So we did that. And then it was the immense job hunt. And for months, I think my entire summer this year was basically me trying to get a job.
I saw like 17 different versions of your resume.
Probably.
And you edited things that you overthought so many things about, like the formatting of things. Oh, and then you had OBM on your resume and you were worried that having that position of being on a board of directors made you overqualified for things. So then you took it off of your resume.
I got an email about that. I got somebody saying that, oh, I think you're overqualified. And that was like a segment. I was like, what? How was that even? And that was I was okay.
You want to know the funny thing though? I took mine off of my main experience. I put it down under volunteer, that I'm a volunteer CEO for a not-for-profit. I don't even have it in my main anything anymore.
No, I don't either. I removed it because...
Isn't that sad? Like, I don't know. Why can't we be proud of these things that we've done and it not be like a...
No, I think up until June, I want to say... July, as a matter of fact, I was deep in job applications. Like, I'm telling you, I can edit anybody's resume to perfection right now.
ChatGPT can too, so don't waste your time.
I have so many. If I've shared 17 versions with you, I think I have like 2,000 on my.
I do too, though. If I'm being honest, like I have trillions of versions of my resume.
Yeah,
scattered across multiple devices.
And I have positions that are in review for months now, and they haven't been processed or rejected. Like, they're just there. And the entire month of August and so far in September, I have not applied to a single job.
Good, because you get a little bit crazy about applying to these jobs and monitoring them and stuff.
I needed them to tell me to get the hell out of their faces and tell me that they're not going to give me that job, to take a damn break, because I wasn't giving grace to myself at all.
No. And you have a job.
Yeah,
it's not even like you're unemployed.
No, I see, like, as an international student on work permit, there are certain requirements that I need to fulfill, and this job currently is not doing that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I don't give a shit. I need to have a mental stability.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was so hard on myself. I was constantly struggling. And I was like, no, keep pushing, working, gym, this, that, everything. And nothing was working out. And then I was like, you know what? I don't care.
Yeah.
And the 1.5 months that now have not applied for jobs or touched anything, I am more sane. I have a little bit more clarity, and my nervous system is calming the fuck down.
Good. Can we talk for a second about your international student working visa status?
So I'm on my
I
work
don't
permit.
know enough about this. Like, this is something I need to learn a lot more about.
My regulations are not going to apply to the upcoming students at all.
Oh, thank goodness.
Because no, they're worse. They're worse off.
I would harbor an illegal alien. I don't even care.
No, they're worse off than what we had. We still have like 3 years of work permit with us. The coming students, they're not going to have it if they're in my program. September semester onwards, anybody who was enrolled in our program is not going to have the same work permit that we did. So theirs is more fucked up. But for us, we have, if you're a 2-year program, you have a 3-year work permit validity. And you need to have certain score points to get your PR through. And honestly, I haven't even looked into it. Like, I know people are like going gaga and crazy over their scores and all of that shit, and whether they're, and I'm like,
but what I don't understand is how come your position as a supervisor isn't giving you a higher score?
Because I don't have a full-time.
Dang it. Okay, so you don't have full-time. So because you don't have full-time, you also don't have OHIP?
I don't have OHIP. No.
Oh my God. Okay.
I don't have an OHIP. I my position on papers is part-time, but I pull more than full-time hours because there's always just so much available.
Why don't
in
you
healthcare.
ask them to put you in? Does it have to be a permanent full-time position?
Permanent full-time position.
Holy doodle. Okay.
Permanent full-time position that I've been in for 6 months before my OHIP can get through. That's okay. I'm just gonna die anyway. So.
You're just gonna stay healthy and live forever. That's what's gonna happen.
But yeah, like
I'm sick right now. In case you didn't notice, I have if any of you are friends, watchers, Phoebe, when she gets sick, and it's like her
raspy
sick voice. She's like, smelly cat, smelly cat. What? I just never want the sick raspy voice. I'd like all the other symptoms to go away, but the sick raspy voice can stay.
We can kind of use it as a second career path.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so far it's been okay, but I think we're gonna be fine. I think my approach is very different right now. I am prioritizing very different things from what I was before. For the job, I think I was where we are at right now. I think I'm just giving a lot more priority to my mental state and my basic needs and necessities, because I was pushing a lot of things away and be like, I can't prioritize. And I was thinking this hustle mode that wasn't really working out for me, because I need that balance in my life.
Everybody does. Everybody needs that balance in their life.
My social I was only meeting people if I had a reason to be at that place. Like I was only meeting people at the gym because I needed to be at the gym. I was only meeting people at OBM. I was only meeting people at work. I wasn't meeting people outside of that circle. And I think that is something that I'm prioritizing right now. I'm not a very, I don't have a big circle.
No, me neither. I'm not a very big crew kind of gal. Yeah.
I know a lot of people, yes.
Same,
but I don't have a very big circle. So to be able to connect with them right now, I think that's amazing. And it's giving me this, I wake up a little bit more sane every day. And I like that.
Yeah.
Like just being a little bit calmer with myself. I think that's good.
Giving yourself grace, right? Giving yourself grace. Well, what do you think? We're at a long time. Should we dive into these?
Yeah, let's get into the segments.
Let's get into our regularly scheduled programming here. We've got some talking points. We'll pull from the generation box, because I don't think we have.
No,
I don't think we have.
Nobody
think
picked
we've
that.
from the generation box. So your categories, my dear. First one, yellow, growing up. Work and play is green. Family life is blue. Big picture is red. So you want growing up, work and play, family life. Growing up. All right. Let's see.
You just pick one for me.
Yes. And then I'm not going to go even remotely near family life. I think I'll take big picture. This red. Oh, I love this. Great one. You want to go
first?
I'll ask you first.
Oh no, I mean I'll go.
Oh, you asked me first. Okay.
How do you feel about the choices you made in school, career, and spouses? I just thought that was a loaded one.
Okay, repeat it one more time. How do I feel about the decisions I've made in school, career, and spouses? Where do I start? Holy doodle. Okay, so I'm sure that this is not a secret, but I'm a very creative person. I'm a very big picture kind of thinking person. And when I was in high school, I was head of the drama department. I was head of the prom committee. I was prom queen. I was not a very social person, but I knew everyone. Every clique, because it was very cliquey in my high school. We had something called the Blonde Squad, and anyone from the Blonde Squad in the history of my high school, one of them would get prom queen. And so when I discovered this weird like culture in my school, I was like, I will be the one to end that reign. And I did. And the blonde squad, they were sobbing in the middle of the prom when I was doing my like dance with the prom king. There was people from the blonde squad who were sobbing that they didn't get it and that I did. So originally in high school, I started my undergraduate degree as a creative writing English major. I did not think that I was going to go into healthcare at all, even though nepotism, I had been working in a long-term care home since grade 9. Like I was 14 when I started working in long-term care. It had never occurred to me, even though I had worked for, my entire high school at this long-term care home and I was making decisions about applying to school. Not once did I ever think about applying to a healthcare degree. It was always, I want to do something creative. Every program I applied to was creative arts, Bachelor of Arts. I got accepted to U of T, York, Ryerson, and the University of Windsor. I wanted to go to Toronto. I applied to the 3 universities in Toronto, and the one university I applied to out of Toronto was the University of Windsor because that's the one that my stepmom went to. And they thought that it was close to home, and they thought that me like moving into Toronto as a freshly 18-year-old, girl would not have been, the right decision for me. And so when scholarship offers started coming in, of course, I didn't even like register at U of T because I'm competing against, people that get like 98%. And I think my like GPA in high school was like maybe 86 or 87. And even that wasn't enough to get scholarships from Toronto. And so then all of my scholarship money came from the University of Windsor. And my parents basically said, you're going to Windsor. You don't have a choice because you're going where the money is and it's close to home. And it's where my mom went to school. And I ended up getting a dorm room in the same residence that my mom lived in. And if I could have made that decision for myself, if their money wasn't a thing and you're going where the scholarship money is and you're be close to home, whatever, if money ain't a thing, I would have gone to Toronto. Like I would have chased my dream of wanting to be in the big city sooner. But instead I did Windsor first. And much like you, I pissed my way through my bachelor's because it wasn't where I wanted to be. I ended up changing my major after first semester from English and creative writing to psychology. And then I went from psychology to gerontology because I went home for Christmas, I don't know. And I was talking to the director of care at the nursing home and she was like, Shannon, like, why don't you go into healthcare? Like you're so good with the elderly people and you're so good with the families and stuff. And I was like, okay, like
chase that woman,
whatever. So I switched gears and I leaned heavy into the gerontology. I leaned heavy into gender studies as well. And, I came out of that with like a bachelor's degree in psychology with minor in women's studies. And I had like all of these other courses in geriatric medicine that all of my electives were in the nursing program, all of them. And I did this like volunteer thing through the university where they sent me out on some placement at a long-term care home. And I was like running the friggin' program, as a Bachelor of Arts student, because I had already worked in the field for 8 years or something at that point. So the question was specifically career and education. I'm very grateful that I had a lot of help because of nepotism. I'm very grateful that I didn't have to work at McDonald's or work in the mall, because even when I started working at 14, the rate of pay was like $3 more and like above minimum wage. I think I was making like $7.20 an hour.
Wow.
My first minimum, like it wasn't minimum wage though. Like minimum wage, maybe it was like $5 and something. $5.90 I think is standing out to me. Yeah, it was, the minimum wage was $5.90 and I was making $7.20 an hour. And I was like, yeah, bitches, like I'm making $7.20 an hour, and I maintained my paper route too. So I was like,
you were
bawling.
like a rich teenager.
I was a rich teenager. But I mean, my parents were also like, now you're paying for yourself, so work hard. So would I do things differently? I wish that I had, maybe had a mentor more in the creative arts that I could have gone to, because my mentors were in healthcare. So obviously my mentors are going to steer me in the direction of healthcare. I feel like maybe if I had had a stronger network in creative arts and writing and journalism, or, I don't know, whatever. I think I would have preferred to have stayed in the arts, and I think I would have preferred to have been just been able to use my brain in a more creative way, because that had always been something. Like, I'm not kidding you. And when I say, when you're in public school in North America, Christmas time, we do like pageants and stuff, and like little kids sing on the stage and parents cheer. I was in every single one of those pageants. I was always the main character. I was always the lead role. I was always the person that had the solo or the monologue. We created, we called it the St. Clair Preview. So my high school was called St. Clair High School, and we called it the Preview because it was like a series of kind of like Saturday Night Live. Like, we did skits and like kind of a talent show thing. And we started this from scratch. Like, the drama club created this huge event where we ended up making thousands of dollars in ticket sales and stuff. So career-wise, education-wise, I'm grateful for my career in healthcare, and I'm really fucking good at my job, no matter what my colleagues might think about my attendance because I call in sick. I'm really fucking good at my job. And the people who work with me, who know me as a professional, know that I'm very good at my job. But is it what fuels my fire? Is it what lights a fire in the pit of my belly anymore? No. And if I really think about the things in my healthcare career that did excite me and, drive things forward, it was starting a new role that didn't exist and creating it from scratch, developing and building something that didn't previously exist and making it into something. And as soon as I would get to that point where I'd been there and done that, and now the role exists, and now I'm doing the same shit every single day and having the same conversations every single day and having the same meetings every single day, as soon as the dopamine hit is not there for me anymore, it's like, I got to go do the next thing now, because I'm not stimulated. I'm not driven. I'm not motivated. And I have a really hard time staying in roles where I don't align with the leadership structure. Because I'm a justice seeker. And if I think that, a leader is unethical, or if the culture of an organization is toxic, I won't stay. I just won't. So very grateful for my career. Love that I can say that I have been in a field for 24 years. I'm very proud of that. But there is nothing more that excites me now than my ability to use my creative energy and my outside of the box thinking and my ability to make something out of nothing. I love that I'm doing that with this thing that's so important to me. As for spouses, oh Lord, where do you start? I don't know, man. Like, I am not married. I've never been married. I don't have children. And I see my friends who are married with children. And as much as I know they love their children, I think that if they had the chance to know what the childless, double income, no kids, like if they had the chance to feel what that feels like, I don't know if they still would have had kids.
Listen.
I just don't know. And listen, you're going to come for me.
No.
Being a mother is a beautiful thing. Bringing life into the world is incredible. Of course, we need people to be having babies, and we need to have, people coming into the world. But like,
listen, we're the cream of the crop. Don't tell them the good part. Hush.
I love children. Okay. I am not a child hater. Children and I get along very well. Kids love me. Kids are drawn to me. I love kids. I am not saying don't have kids.
Please have kids so that we don't have to have
kids. Please
have
kids so that we don't have to have kids. Please have kids so that I can love them and snuggle them and laugh with them, because I love your kids.
Yeah.
But I also love that when I get home from work, I don't have to report to anyone. I don't have to feed anyone. My dog's okay, whatever. But like, I I can sleep whenever I want. I can go wherever I want, whenever I want. I don't have to arrange, for childcare. I don't have to I know the bond that a mother has with their child. There's nothing like it. I don't know what that feels like because I've never done it. And I think I really struggle sometimes because friends will say, and I know they don't mean it in a hurtful way, but they're like, well, when I became a mother, everything changed for me. So of course I don't understand that. Of course I don't, because I've never carried a child. I've never even had a whoops or, anything. Never, ever in my life have I loved something the way a mother loves their child. So I can't sit here and pretend like I know what that bond feels like, but I also look at what's happening in the world around, and I look at, what's happening in politics and what's happening with the economy and what's happening with our environment, our physical planet itself. And I just pause for a moment and think, sometimes I feel like it would be foolish of me to bring a child into the world with a partner that I might, stay with for, half of the child's life, because statistically the relationship will end. I think it would be very foolish of me to bring a child into this world when I know that there's the possibility that genetically I will pass something genetically onto them because of, my biological makeup. I know that the world is going to be a very scary place when that child is an adult and they're going to have to thrive and cope in that world. And I know that I would fuck that kid up because there are so many times in my life where I can barely take care of myself. How would I ever be able to take care of a child when I am in the thick of a depressive episode where I've been sleeping on the couch for 6 months? How would I be able to take care of another human when I am in that state? So it's simultaneously, this wasn't even a child conversation. This was a spouse conversation, but I think spouse and child, rearing. And I think this has also contributed to why maybe I haven't necessarily had, many long-term relationships in my life, is because when I get into a relationship with someone, it's like you get to a certain point in that relationship where you're supposed to take that next step. And marriage is not important to me. I don't care to get married. I think the concept of marriage is actually also another foolish one. So I think that either is, the people that I'm with are okay, well, they want to have kids, or they want to, get married, or I am a very difficult person to live with. I'm, a very difficult person to understand sometimes. So I feel like I am also very guarded in how I connect with a person. There are not very many people in this world who know the very, very complex sort of ways of understanding how I operate. And I'm only just now in my life kind of feeling comfortable about exposing that to people, because historically I would mask so many of those parts of me. But finally being diagnosed and, finally having a lot of the things that I've wondered about myself my entire life being validated, it specifically explains to me why I've had such a hard time with relationships, why I've had such a hard time maintaining long-term partners and boyfriends, why my rejection sensitivity dysphoria is so strong when I feel like I'm, being, when somebody breaks up with me or something, or if somebody's like, yeah, you know what, I just don't think I see this going anywhere. For the average person, it's, well, crap, I'm sad. But for me, it's well, now I need to kill myself. Sorry. It's this is how intense it gets for me sometimes. We're gonna have to put trigger warnings on every single one of these episodes because I'm such a chaotic mess sometimes. Anyways, that's literally where it goes for me sometimes. If you want to know the raw and real of it all of the boys out there who have ever dated me, who broke up with me, you don't know what you did to this poor person's brain, because you made me feel like there was something so deeply wrong with me, and I internalized that, and then have had a really hard time, sort of trying to open myself up. And so that's why the relationship that I'm in right now, I'm trying to do things so differently than I've ever done them before, by being as transparent about the things that I struggle with, and trying to help my partner sort of understand the things that are, weird and eccentric about me. It's not easy. Would I do anything different? I don't think I physically have the ability to have done anything different than what I did. I think everything that happened in my relationships happened for a reason. And I think every single person that comes into your life teaches you something, and you learn what you don't want in a partner. You learn what you love about yourself as a partner. You know how far you are willing to extend yourself as a partner. And I think we all have to be, really cognizant of the fact that every relationship is hard. Relationships are hard, and everybody has issues. Everybody on the planet has issues and trauma and baggage. You just have to pick the weirdo that makes the most sense to match your weirdness, because you're not going to find that checklist partner that you think exists out there. Even when you find that person and you think, oh my goodness, this is the holy grail of people who are meant for me, you are going to eventually discover that that person is just a person, and they have weird flaws and idiosyncrasies and things that are going to drive you friggin' crazy. They just have that. Every single weirdo on the planet is deserving of love. And I hope that I haven't hurt anybody's feelings by what I've said, but my perception and my experience is different from your perception and your experience. And I hope that everybody finds the love that they believe that they deserve. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
All right. Ready?
Yeah.
As a child, yours will maybe not be as lengthy as mine, but as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh my God. Oh my God. I think what I wanted to be as a child would have probably suited me better than what I'm doing right now.
What was it?
First, I wanted to be a lawyer.
Nice.
Yeah, I think
I thought about that at a time too, maybe.
Yeah, because I just talked too much. Definitely worked out. And my dad was really happy about it, because I remember me telling him that I want to join the forces, which he's like, yes. Family business, because my entire family is in the forces. So he was like so excited about it that there was like this Saturday brunch party at the golf club, and wow, that sounded so bougie. It wasn't.
At the country club, we had a luncheon to celebrate me wanting to be a lawyer.
No. Oh. There was just like this random get together with people, and there was this Air Force officer, lady officer who was a lawyer with the forces, and he was so excited. He took me to her, and I still remember she wants to be a lawyer and she wants to do that, and I was like, goodness. Oh my God, he's so excited. And then
he's so proud of me.
And I just completely butchered his dreams.
I think he's like, proud of you. I have your dad on LinkedIn. He's I love the thing that he's written about what was that blog post that he wrote? And I just loved everything he said, and he posted a picture of you. Oh, yeah, that was amazing. Something about supporting your children and making decisions or something.
My dad's an amazing father. I think he's an amazing
shout out to Sham's dad.
Yeah, I think he's an amazing father. Both of my parents, amazing parents. Yeah, for sure. Like I have been really lucky with my parents really being very supportive of whatever crazy shit I wanted to pull. Like, I'm not even kidding.
When did you veer away from lawyer?
I want to say like my parents were very adamant that they wanted me to take science, because they thought that just opens a lot more options. So Indian education system is a little bit more weird, but to put it in a way, they wanted me to take a scope so that I can choose whatever I want once I'm done with school. They wanted, if I wanted to be a lawyer, sure, do it. But the moment they introduced me to science, I was like, nah. If I'm gonna burst my ass with these
it's
four
gonna
subjects,
be with human cells on a little sample disc under a microscope.
Yeah, I was like, hell no. If I'm gonna be put through this torture for 2 years, you better believe I'm going into this field. So I think it just faded away. But I wanted to be a lawyer for a very, very long time.
Did I ever tell you what I wanted to be when I grew up? I wanted to deliver babies.
Right.
We talked about this. OBGYN. Remember? Yeah, I wanted to be an OBGYN. For years, that was all I said. I was like, I'm going to deliver babies. See, I love babies. I love that you have babies. I wanted to deliver babies for like 10 years of my life.
No,
until I realized how much school you had to do.
I know I never wanted to be a doctor because I saw doctors and the way they were treated, and they were so kind. Like, I've always been introduced to these kind and beautiful people as doctors in my life, especially when I was a kid. And then the way they would be treated, I was like, hell no, I'm not getting that.
Right?
Like,
oh my goodness.
there's no way I have that much grace to be in that place, you know? But
yeah.
and I wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be
full circle. We're right back to dancing.
No, because my mom introduced me to a classical Indian dance, Kathak. And I have completed my graduation in it. I have done everything that I need to do to be a professional. I just never become a professional. Like, I've never taken that route, but there was a significant amount of time where I was like, that's all I want to do. I want to be a lawyer who dances a lot. And
well, it's never too late to start tucking.
Yeah.
Tuck.
Kathak.
Not like a tuk tuk in Thailand.
What you were trying to say.
like in Thailand, you take a tuk tuk. It's like a thing that drives you. It's like a motorcycle with a thing on the back. It's called a tuk tuk.
Oh, I thought it was tuk tuk. Okay.
Tuk 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 tuk. This is the difference. Tuk tuk tuk. Anyways, should we close out with Olive in the Pit?
Yeah. What's yours?
Man, I was hoping you would go first. I didn't think of anything. So my Olive for this week. I've been kind of back and forth with another not-for-profit in a small town where I was born. And I just found out this week that they're actually going to be featuring me in some like Chamber of Commerce Christmas catalog or something like that. So you'll know what this is all about by the time this podcast airs. But that's been, so that has been the Olive. Is I'm really excited to kind of see where that goes. I have a bunch of, really exciting people that I'll be meeting with in the next couple of weeks. So a few little kind of olives, primarily just attached to how OBM is growing and evolving with partnerships and stuff. I'm really excited. And then my pit, oh man, I had to get a second opinion for my dog, Olive, because she's got some lumps. She's a senior dog. Like Olive is my soul dog, if you know that concept. Like I will struggle fair warning, losing Olive will be the hardest thing I think I ever go through in my life, for sure. So I'm not looking forward to that. I'm really not. But the good news is there's nothing right now that we need to kind of be, concerned about in the immediate future, but there are going to have to be some decisions that are made probably within the next 6 months, year, about kind of how we kind of deal with lumps and bumps and an aging dog. And, she doesn't have the best hips, and it's hard. It's hard to decide, what to do. How much clinical intervention do you chase? How invasive do you take things? And, I've been dealing with my own, skin cancer diagnosis, and I know how insane I am about my biopsy results. Awareness, right? I know that going down the rabbit hole of biopsying every single lump that comes up on Olive, I know, not only what that would do to her physically, but what that would do to me psychologically. I'm just really trying to kind of navigate that very carefully. And yeah, that's been an Olive pit, quite literally. And the things that are, it's kind of like pits that she has in her body. So very literal in that sense. And thank goodness I said that without crying, because it's been really hard. Like, I cried to the vet thinking that if you don't do some intervention, that it's like neglect or abuse, and that's just simply not the case. And for parents out there who have lost a pet, and if you have fur babies that you love, they don't live forever. And I think that's the saddest part about having a dog that you love so much, is that you have to be prepared for the idea that you only get them for a short period of time, and it's very unfair. Yeah.
I get that.
Olive in the Pit, baby. What do you got?
I'll start with a pit. I think, wow. This is the first podcast I'm thinking about pit. But no.
That's good, because you know what? that means your mental health is good.
Yeah.
Because historically your pits were like, work is 9-minute interview phenomenon. And
Yeah. No, I think I want to say I don't have a pit today.
Not even like you got like cut off in traffic or something. Like,
no.
I'm so jealous. That's amazing. That's incredible.
I don't
You're in a
think-
good space.
I think I'll just give you 2 olives. First would be I gave myself a lot of grace the last month and a half. Starting August, I want to say probably there was this one job that I was still wanting to apply, and I just did that, but it was just whatever. And I just decided to stagnate myself a little bit, like slow down. I guess last episode we recorded, I was saying that I want to do that. I'm trying to do that, and I think it worked.
Yeah.
Because there's all of the things that were triggering me this year, they're not anymore. I'm very calm. I'm happy where I am right now. Like that's and I think another one would be, I am making better connections. Like
yeah,
I have, and nothing to do with professional life. Fuck, I'm tired with that shit.
Yeah,
but my personal life, I am making more connections, better quality ones.
Can I ask, are you dating anyone?
No, we're not dating.
Okay, not dating. All right, are you gonna let me meet this person if there ever is one special enough?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Good. Yeah. I hope so. That's good. All right. Well, I mean, this is going to be a real choppy episode, but we'll figure it out.
Gotta edit so much.
There's a lot that needs to be edited out of this, but that's the job of the very capable editors. Hats off to you, editors. We appreciate you. Well, everybody, this has been the All of You podcast, where we sit down with all of you. And today we extended the olive branch to Shambhavi Chaturvedi. Is that too like Spanish, what I just did?
It is very, I want to say it sounded like you were from Poland.
Okay, very Polish. Say it again for me so that I can hear it.
Shambhavi Chaturvedi.
Shambhavi Chaturvedi.
It's okay. You're doing your best.
Too Italian. Anyways, this is Sham. I'm Shannon. We'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.